Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We ran a survey some time back in terms of asking people what is it that they want us to cover during these sessions. And one of the most overwhelming response we got was how to manage people during this crisis, how to motivate them, or how to understand, how to get them to perform back to the normal level. And that is what I thought I'll cover today. So today's topic is about managing relationships and motivating people out of crisis. Uh, what I want to do today is take you through a model DISC assessment. Some of you may have heard of it before. Some of you may have used it before. So if you have used DISC, then you will understand a bit more. But what I want to do today is take you a bit more deeper into DISC and how that works in business and in terms of managing people. So let's get started, and I'm going to get you back to the slides. So in this slide, what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be looking at understanding your behavioral style. So looking at how you behave or how you communicate. What we'll also be looking at, how do you assess and figure out other people's behavioral style? Because it's not only important to understand, what your response to something like this crisis is, but also to understand what other people are going through and how they may behave or how they may react to a situation like this. We'll also be looking at using the DISC model to understand people's needs, fears, and emotions, and what you as a business leader or a business owner can do to or help them overcome those emotions or those fears. And what we'll also be looking at, what sort of behaviors people exhibit during stress and crisis. So one thing is to understand how people behave in normal times, but it is also equally important to understand how people behave during crisis. And then what we'll also touch upon is, what can you do to manage the people working with you, or people around you in your social circle. How can you motivate them? How can you actually lead them through this situation? So before we get started, I'm sure you must have heard of this golden rule: treat people you would like to be treated. uh, and that applies to a lots of things. But there is another rule which is called platinum rule, and platinum rule says communicate with people the way they like to communicate. So the difference between the two rules is, the treatment of the golden rule applies to more values. However, the platinum rule applies more in terms of communicating with people, or in terms of dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. So it is important to understand the difference between the two. A lot of times we as business leaders or owners expect other people to understand us in situations. However, they may or may not be able to understand as well as we think they are able to understand. So it is important to understand, and I'm going to touch upon the basis of this whole thing in a minute. So the way we look at people, or the way people communicate with each other, there are three signals people give out: verbal, vocal, and visual. So the words they speak, how they speak, the tonality they use, and what sort of body language they exhibit. So when we are looking at people, these are the signals people give out when they're communicating. And you look at all these signals, and you look at the two gauges that we look at in terms of understanding people or assessing people's behavior or communication style. One is whether they are talking fast or they're talking slow. Second is how forthcoming they are. Are they open or they guarded? So based on that, then we are able to look at people's behavioral or communication style. And I'll just give you a cue here. So if you look at scale 1, 2, 3, 4, and scale A, B, C, D. So people towards 1 are more task-oriented people, and people towards 4 are more relationship-oriented people. So it is about understanding there are people who when they communicate, they are more focused on tasks, and there are people who are more focused on relationships. So they would want to know how you are, how was your weekend, whereas somebody else will just walk into an office and they would just get straight to the business. So it is about understanding that. And then we look at people who are introvert and extrovert. So some people who are easily easy to communicate with, are they're happy to share. Other people, they hold back, and they are more interested in you and your opinion rather than their own opinion. So when we look at this, and we uh, look at how people communicate, these are the four styles that people can fall into. One is the dominant or director style, influence or social or expressive style, steady and relative, and consensus or thinker or analytical style. So now, when we look at our personalities or behaviors, we are a combination of these four. However, one or two are usually stronger than the other, and that decides how we behave or how we communicate with people. And I'm going to give you some of the examples for you to understand. So, people on the people on the right hand side, they are usually the people who speak fast. People on the left hand side are the people who usually speak slowly. And when you look at people underneath, they are more in terms of relationships, they are more in terms of emotions. People on top, they are more focused on tasks, they're more focused on analytics, and they're more focused on what needs to happen to get the work done. So that's how the basic differentiation in the styles is. And when we look at it, D's, so when we look at a director or a D, what they would be good at is they're good at taking charge, they're very competitive. They're good at getting things done, they're risk takers, they're good at ensuring bottom line results. And when you look at these styles, so first thing I would like you to see is, what is your style? I mean, think about where do you fit in, and you may be between two styles or maybe three styles, but one of them will be more dominant than the others. So think about which is the dominant one in your case, and see how it applies to you. Second thing I would like to look at, I would like you to look at or think about, is people around you, maybe your friends, your family, maybe your spouse, or maybe people who work with you, maybe your clients, maybe your suppliers. Where do they fit in? And the key is, once you understand your style, it is important to look at what the other person's style is and match their style. Don't stick to your style, because if you want the work done, or if you want somebody to change, or if you want somebody to do something, then you need to communicate with them at their level. So you look at how are you going to adapt to their style. It's not about your style only, it's about other person's style and how you're going to adapt to that. So looking at D, they are really good at taking charge, and they're very competitive, like I said. What is difficult for them is they don't like repetitiveness, so they get bored very fast. They can't be diplomatic, they will say what comes, and usually they upset a lot of people around them. They don't like a lot of rules, because they kind of think they're above the rule in some ways. And they don't like opening up, they don't like sharing their personal life with other people. So that is what D is all about. When you look at I's, what are they good at? They are good at influencing other people. So they can talk, and they can talk, and they can talk. They can think really fast on their feet. They're always coming up with new ideas. They're really good at promoting things, and selling, or maybe talking people into doing something that they want them to do. And what is difficult for them is, again, restrictions. They don't like restrictions. So these kind of people are really good in sales, but it is difficult for them to create some sort of a KPI or a dashboard for sale. They will be good at closing the sale, but if you ask them to give the numbers, they will struggle. They don't like routine, they don't like formal reports, they don't like redoing anything. So again, they don't like repetitiveness, so they get bored very fast. On the other side, if you have people in the S, steady people, what they are good at is bringing harmony to the team. They are the kind of glue that holds people together. They're really friendly, sensitive, they're good at building networks, and they're also good at coordinating with other people, because they can actually connect with people. But what they don't like, and what is something very difficult for them, is competition. They hate competition, because in their eyes, nobody should have to lose. So there is no point having competitions. Why can't we both win? That is the kind of approach they will have. Working with a D person, so they find it very difficult working with a D person, because these people, again, opposite of each other. They don't like making big decisions, they don't like change. and they don't like contradicting others. They don't like upsetting people. Even if they don't agree with you, they may not tell you on your face that they don't like it or they don't agree with you. You know, uh, on the other side, when you look at the analytical or the thinker people, conscientious people, is more about they're really, really organized. They are really good with data. They're really good with planning. And sometimes their downfall is too much analysis leads to paralysis. You know, but they want to be sure before they take the first step. Unlike eyes, who take the step and then think what needs to happen. What are they not good at is working with unpredictable, disorganized people. So they can't really, they find it challenging working with high eyes. They don't like working in groups. So you will see people working on their screens, or IT engineers, and who are not really, who don't really enjoy social gatherings. But if you tell them to do, create a program, they'll be more happy to work alone on a screen and with a laptop, and they would try and work out. And so usually they're really good at getting things right. So if you look at this, if you want something done, involve a D. If you want to sell something, involve an I. If you want to take people along with you, involve an S. And if you want done something right, then have C, in charge. But remember, all of them, when I'm giving you these examples, these are extremes. Okay. So, like I said, we are not one style, we are a combination of all the four styles, but one or two will be more dominant than the others. So, can you think of people in your life who would be high Ds, or who would be high Is, or who would be high S's, and how would be high C's? I'm sure you can relate to some of the people. You can think about some of the people who actually fit into these brackets. Okay. So in this case, what we want to talk about today is just having some idea about the different styles people have. How do these people fare when there is stress or when there is a crisis? So what we need to look at is, what foundation and how DISC is relatable in terms of crisis. So and it's really important for communication, because it tells you the needs, the core emotions, and the fears of each of the styles of the high level. So then if you're able to identify a person's style or their primary style, and yes, we know we have more than one core style, so we may be bouncing between the two styles. But if we have a fundamental understanding of what each of those styles tend to need, what their core emotions are, and what they fear, we can work to meet those needs and eliminate those fears in day-to-day conversation on a good day. But at the same time, especially during stress, it'll help us navigate these times much better. So I'm going to go through this quickly, just to lay the foundation in terms of the needs, fears, and emotion. So when we look at D, so these are, they're problem solvers. They're task focused. So they like challenges, and they like authority. So when you have a D around you, you will feel that somebody is in the room. Like I said, they need a challenge to solve. You might hear them say things like, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to solve problems." That's their big focus. Their core emotions are anger and impatience. Now, that doesn't mean they are angry people, but they have a sense of urgency behind everything. And if the things don't happen in their timeline, they tend to get impatient with that. So, and they really, really fear taken advantage of, or having lack of control. So we need to keep this in mind when we go through this. So their fear is being taken advantage of, their lack of control. When we look at eyes, I are the people who are all about social relationships and a friendly environment. More friends, more people, the better. So, and remember, they're optimists. They're optimistic and very, very trusting as well. The way I look at it, the high eyes are, they spread glitter around them. Everything is, fine. Everything is good around them. And, and they believe that everything is going to just work out fine, but their fear is about being left out, and having, a loss of social approval. So a high eye would find it very difficult to deal with rejection in terms of, especially in public. So they are the ones who are sensitive types. But but one more thing is, even if they get rejection, the good thing about them is they can forget about the rejection and move on very quickly. Let's look at S style. So S people are all about pace and the environment. So they get their energy from the environment around them. So they look at stability around them. So they are a lot more patient and not very expressive. So what that means is, the higher the score on S is, more patient they would be. So you would have seen people around you who are just very slow to respond or slow to speak and very patient with people, and they tolerate people. But then because they are non-expressive, that doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. They do have emotions, but they don't express it. You know, but the problem sometimes what happens is they bottle up their emotions for a long time, and once it bottles up, one day or the other, it just explode. So if the patience is being tried over and over and over again, then it can come out in a very negative way. And they don't really like change. They don't like sudden change. For them, it's about taking one step at a time, taking people along. So they like security, but they hate change, for that matter. So if you have a S person, you will have to sell it to them again and again and again. You can't conclude a sale in one meeting. You may have to have 5 meetings to conclude a sale. So keep that in mind about, they don't like change. They like stability and security. um, C style people are all about rules and all about data. What they are looking for is to back up, something logically. Anything that you say needs to be backed up logically. And their, biggest emotion is fear and concern. And it's about making mistakes. So they're very fearful of making mistakes. You know, and that is what they don't like. They need to be perfect. They need to be right all the time. So they would do their research. They would, if they ask you a question, a high C person, if they ask you a question, most likely they already know the answer, but they're just asking questions just to check your, uh, uh, how well are you prepared. So in that sense, the positive aspects and the negative aspects, but what they don't like, high C's, they don't like is, being pointed out wrong. That is something which they can't deal with. And they're very, very particular about the quality. And simple thing like how a presentation looks and how it is presented, something simple like that. Now when you look at these disc needs, fear and emotion, it not only applies for situations like these, but it also applies in sales situations. So when you're going out and selling, especially when you're having sales meetings face to face, or for example, if you're having communication over emails or phone, if you keep disc in mind, your conversion will improve. So if you're dealing with a high D, don't give them a detailed quote or something like that. Give them something, challenge them, and close the sale. High eyes, you will have to, with the high eye, you will have to ask question like, your friends have bought it, this the other person has bought it. I don't want you to miss out. So that is the kind of language you will use. With a high S, you would use something like, I know this is a change we're bringing about, but what we will do, I will support you along the way. We will take people along with us, and we're going to take one step at a time. And with a C, you need to back up logic. So for example, cost saving or efficiency or whatever, in terms of data, whatever data you can provide, it makes it easier for them to make that decision. So think about these things when you're dealing with people in sales situation also. So it is about understanding how does that work in business as well. So let's take a poll here. From what we have discussed so far, see where do you fit in. If you've done your disc report already, that's great. But if you haven't done your disc report, can you just click which one do you relate to the most? And let's have a look at what is the spread of people on this. So I'm going to keep the polling there for a few seconds. If you just click on the poll and choose the one where you fit in. Okay, we've got, yeah, I, D, okay. Okay, has everybody given? I'll give it a couple of more seconds. If anybody else needs to vote, just enter, and then we're going to take it. Okay, let us take a roll. Okay, so on this call, we have all high D's and high I's, which is a good thing. So what does that tell me? That tells me that I need to keep up with the pace. I shouldn't be slowing down. If there were S's and C's, then I would have had to slow down a little bit in terms of presentation. So that's a good thing. That gives me an idea about how the presentation is going to go. It's going to go fast now. Okay. So in terms of moving forward, what is also important to understand, you know, that we, when we are kind of interacting with other people, you know, we judge ourselves based on our intentions. However, others, they judge us on basis of our behavior, and it's vice versa as well. You know, so on a good day, you know, I mean, usually we would judge ourselves on emotions, but you know, others would judge us on what they can see. So our behavior, and in turn, you know, when we understand this a bit more in detail, and we are able to identify the signals and assess people's disc personality, it gives you a lot of information. So you know, it gives you information about how they are perceiving themselves. Even when you understand your disc profile, you have an understanding how are other people perceiving me, and how am I looking at myself is very different from how I am being perceived by others. And especially in stressful situations, or you know, pressure situations, it is important, because when we are in pressure situations or stress situations, our behaviors change depending on our desk profiles. I'm going to give you a bit more information on that. But our behaviors and our, you know, the way we express ourselves change. So in sometimes what happens, how we are perceiving ourselves and how others are perceiving, they don't align, and that creates a lot more stress. So for example, if you look at it here, in this here, so you may perceive yourself as a roaring lion, but others may perceive you as a cat, cute cat. Or the other way around, you may perceive yourself as a cat, but others may perceive you as a really roaring lion. Here, if you look at this case, these ladies think they are very easy to talk to, but the man here is saying, no, actually, no, you're not a really good listener. So you may think that you are really easy to talk to, but you don't hardly listen. You're not easy to talk to, you're easy to, you know, listen to, basically. So you don't give me an opportunity to speak. So thinking about things like these, and how we're going to apply that in our day-to-day interaction with people, that is really, really important. So when we look at you know, backup behavior, so what happens when we are in a situation where we are stressed, or where there's pressure, what happens in some situations like that, you know, the behaviors, then they get elevated even further. So what happens is, you know, sometimes we dump onto others, uh, if we feel that the other person is the reason behind the stress, we dump these backup behaviors on these people. And it is important to understand that how it is impacting them. But each of the style has, you know, a way they do it differently. But it's important to understand for each of these styles. And if you look at it, you know, what are the dumping behaviors, what are the unproductive behaviors, you will help understand those people, what they are going through, and how can you help them handle that situation better. So for example, high D's. Now for high D, in case when they are stressed, they tend to dictate, they want to be in control. So remember, their biggest fear is being out of control. Remember that. So when they're stressed, they may appear to be, you know, doing things like these. So they may appear restless, they may be critical, they may be blunt, or they may be uncooperative, they may be aggressive, they may come across as aggressive. So if any of, I mean, some of you are D style here. So if you look at the situation here, if you're in a stressful situation, see your behavior. Do you react in any of these ways? And you may or may not be able to you know, understand this is how you're behaving, but ask somebody else who knows you a bit more, or who spends more time with you. Say, do I exhibit some of these signs? So it is about understanding, when you're working with a D, or if you have a D partner, or somebody like that, it is, if they exhibit any of these behaviors, it is about them you know, in stress. So you need to understand that this may not be their natural behavior, but they are behaving under stress. So all they're trying to do is get control back. Okay, what they need is some sort of evidence of progress, you know, tangible and evidence. They want to move fast, they're driven by accomplishments. So it's about understanding, if a D is going through this and D is behaving like this, what is it that you can do to help them? Let's look at the next one, which is I style. So some of you are I style here. Now, I style, like I said, they are all positive people, right? Now, remember, but when they are, in normal situations, they're just happy about life, and they love motivating people. But when they are under stress, these things change. And particular, sometimes high eyes have a tendency to verbally attacking people, or other way who they think is the source of stress. So they can become very critical as well sometimes, and they usually appear as manipulative or eager or overexcited. And sometimes they can be inconsistent and superficial as well. They come across like that. But it is about understanding that when high eyes are behaving like that, what they're trying to do is trying to get attention back to them, and they get frustrated, and they're just trying to shove it under the carpet, or the stress. They don't want to deal with stress. They just want to shove it under the carpet, and that's how they behave, under stressful situations. If you look at the S style, you know, what S style would do is, will submit or give up just to avoid conflict. Remember, high S people, they don't like conflict. So they would do anything to avoid conflict. So they will agree to whatever you say, whether they, agree or not, but they will just, say yes to whatever you have to say. Their need for safety and security is paramount. So whenever they are in stress, they will just, give up. They will be very submissive. They get defensive, and they get very indecisive as well. But what they need in situations like that, they need reassurance. They need somebody to hold their hand. They need, somebody to slow things down for them, and prioritize relationships. So what they are looking for is some sort of comfort in relationships, because that is really important for them. And when we look at the C styles, what C style is, C style will, remember, S style will submit, C style will withdraw. So they will just shut down, and they will not even participate in anything. And what they are looking for is, they find solace in data. So if there is a stressful situation, they'll go back to information, data, logic, to find some sort of justification for whatever is happening. And they are slow to act, because they want to be sure that they are right. It is important for them to be right at any point of time. So it is about, they will slow down, and they will be slow to act, but at the same time, they'll spend more time looking at the data. So what a person like C will need from you at that point is, some sort of assurances, some sort of, encouragement, saying, yeah, you're right. It's okay. You're on the right track. For you to understand principles and details. So if they discuss in details, well, give them a year. Think about it. Give them a year. Slow down things. Processing information. If they're sharing information with you, just give them a year, and make sure you stick to the accuracy. Put that, prioritize that over other things. Now, when you do that with a C, they feel reassured, and they are then able to, sort of work with you and help you get out of the situation themselves. So when we look at DISC and crisis, so for example, what also happens is, sometimes, um, when DISC and crisis, sorry, when the DISC is it goes through crisis, any of the DISC styles, when they go through crisis, sometimes it amplifies the behaviors. So what people do is, they resort to their backup behaviors, and when they are in a really crisis situation, they would go back to their backup behavior. So if we look at that in terms of high D people, they may say, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. So that's their go-to line. So it is also about understanding what is going in their head. But sometimes, if you are a high D, you need to think about, how am I coming across when I make that statement, when people are already stressful. So have Gordon Ramsay does that all the time. So if you have and imagine what people go through when they have to go through that experience, and they have to listen to a line like that. So when people are looking at situations where a high D is under stress, they need to be careful, because high D can hurt a lot of people. But if you are a high D, you need to be thinking, okay, so I know this is stressful, but let's focus on how we can get control, because Remember, high D is driven by control. So, think about what is in your control, what you cannot control, and what can you control, and how do you get the control there. So look at your backup behaviors and your emotional reactions, how you come out with. So for example, high I emotional reaction maybe, uh, find something positive. If it's a crisis situation, I need to find something positive, I need to read something positive, you know but a more thoughtful approach would be, because what they're trying to do, they're trying to shove it under the carpet. They don't want to acknowledge that there is a problem. So, a thoughtful approach would be, it is difficult not seeing my friends because I can't go out, meet people, because remember, high eyes, they thrive with people. So they are the people who've suffered the most in this lockdown crisis, because they have not been able to communicate. They have not been able to go out and meet people. You know. So what is it that they can do? So spending time, something like Zoom, having some games with friends on online games, things like that. What is it that they can do, go to, so to survive this crisis? Highest people, emotional response from them maybe, if you want it, let's do it. I mean, I don't want it, but I'm just submitting to whatever you want. But then in the sense, if you look at how it is going to impact high S, is going to be very different, even though they are submitting. So instead of bottling it up, the more thoughtful approach would be, I know things are uncertain right now, because they hate change, they hate uncertainty, remember that. So it would be, I know things are uncertain, but we're all in this together, and we're going to get through it together. So having an approach like that is going to be working much better, rather than just saying, okay, let me just do whatever you ask me. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. Have you heard this line sometimes, especially between partners? If one partner is saying something and the other partner is not agreeing to it, at the end, if it's a highest partner, they'll just say, okay, I don't want to be arguing with you. Let's rather do whatever you want me to do, and just tell me what you want me to do. So that is what they do in terms of behavior. When you look at high C's, now high C, the emotional response could be, I can't help you any further, do what you want. So they're just kind of withdrawing. So I have done whatever I can, I'm not going to help you anymore because I can't help you anymore. But a more thoughtful approach would be something like, I know this is stressful, let me just unplug for the day, let me just give it a break, let me just break this pattern somehow. The situation is stressful. And this is specifically when you look at the partners. For example, if there's a high D and a high I partner, now high D is looking for control, high I is looking for positivity. So when there is a stressful situation, high D would do things which will kind of push high I. And Heidi may be thinking in terms of surviving the crisis, or planning, or taking the action. High eyes doesn't want to even encounter any of that, doesn't want to acknowledge anything like that. So can you imagine the conversation or the interaction between two people, and especially if it's husband wife and they're locked together, what kind of experiences they may be going through. So high D will feel high I is not doing enough. I will feel this guy is killing me, or this woman is killing me. So think of this, in this situation. Whereas more thoughtful approach will be, okay, what is it that we need to do? Let's break it down. Or I says, okay, I know I haven't been able to do things that I wanted to. What are the options available to me now? So, thinking more on the lines of what is it that they can, do differently. So it is about understanding the emotional reaction. So when you are with people, or when you are in a situation like that, think about what sort of reactions come out from your mouth, or from how do you behave. And sometimes look at yourself, how are you being perceived? So it's not, you may be doing everything or saying everything with the right intentions, but what is more important is how you are being perceived. So as a leader, or as a manager, or as when you're leading a team of people, or even interacting socially, it is really important to focus on what my style is. Okay, how am I being perceived by other people? But also understand what the other person's style is. And if you can understand what the other person's style is, then you can adapt your behavior, then you can understand their fears, you can understand why a person is behaving the way they are behaving, or why they are reacting. They won't be unreasonable anymore, because then you're able to understand what is the background situation, and why this person is doing whatever they're doing. So it's important to understand that. So remember the platinum rule. When we talked about the platinum rule, we said, it is about understanding how other people like to communicate. It's not important how you like to communicate. It's about communication. Treating is more about values. How we treat people is different, but communication and behavior is different, and that is what is important. So when you go into situations at work, or you meet new clients, or you meet new suppliers, or you get your team members together, think about these things. Think about how they like to be communicated, or think about what can I do differently to communicate better with them. So understanding whether I can speak fast or I can speak slow, I need to slow down, or I need to speak fast, I need to stick to relationships or emotions or feelings, or I need to be more task focused. Think about that, because all of this, when you make these subtle changes, this will help you with your relationships, this will help you with your sales, any situation that requires change. Because in our day-to-day lives also, we are selling all the time, because everything is selling. Even if you want to get your kids out of the bed in the morning to go to school, you are selling them the idea that get out of the bed. So we are selling all the time, something or the other, some idea, because whenever we want somebody to do something, it is selling, isn't it? So if you want people to do what you want them to do, you need to make it clear to them how. Obviously you need to get down to their level and communicate with them at their level, because that way you will be able to have long-term change and impactful change, and you will help people with the challenges that they may be facing. So it's about understanding what people are feeling. Ask them to write it down, and maybe if they write it down, you can go through it with them. Change your pace and change your priority, like I said earlier. Listen more, listen how they are speaking, watch the signals, the body language signals. So it is all about understanding, it's all about communication signals. More you learn, more you implement, better you get at it. So it's about understanding how you are going to be applying this platinum rule in your business. So when we look at uh, emotional intelligence, so it's about holistic communication. Now everybody is operating from a space of stress, and people have been through stressful situations, and things have started to improve, but there is still a lot of uncertainty. So it's about understanding what behavioral expressions they're exhibiting, and how can I understand and look at them. So when we look at identifying emotions, it's also a little bit about emotional quotient. So EQ, IQ, EQ, emotional intelligence. We need to be mindful of these areas as well. So when we have conversations with people, it is important to understand what are the emotions behind whatever they are saying. So it is about looking at how is it going to elevate the stress, or how is it going to bring down the stress. So you can tap into more productive ways of dealing with that. Now, I know it may sound really easy, but understand the implications. You know, when we are going through situations like this, for example, or we are quarantined, it is not, everybody is not going to behave the same way. So some of you may have kids at home, and the kind of things you may be juggling right now. But hopefully, this information can help you navigate some of the some relationships in these situations. So when we're looking at low EQ, sort of response, Heidi would be more aggressive. Whereas, when they are emotionally intelligent people, they'll be more assertive, ambitious, driving, strong-willed, and decisive. So difference between low emotional intelligence and high emotional intelligence is just the behavior. They're same people, but if you just look at the emotional reaction, the left one is what normally people would behave. But if you are thinking, and if you are kind of analyzing how you're coming across, the same reaction can be channelized, but the one as on the right hand side. So for example, high eyes, you know they will come across selfish sometimes. Poor listeners, they don't like to listen, they like to talk, and they like to talk, and they like to talk, and they can keep on talking. Whereas if they are highly emotionally intelligent people, they can still be sociable, charming, persuasive. So it depends on how you look at the situation. High S's, sometimes they frustrate people because they are slow to change, they don't like change, and they can really they can really get on your nerves sometimes, high S people, but and they can also be passive, unresponsive. However, if you look at the positive side of it, they're more stable, and it is also said, um, if there is a high S in a relationship, it is very difficult for that relationship to break down, because no matter what happens, high S will continue putting effort in that relationship. you know so if you know any people who are high S, value them, take care of them, because they are slow to change. So once they are with you, they will be with you forever. High Cs can come across as really critical, picky, fussy, and perfectionist sometimes. And they're critical because they will criticize, how you have done things or how you have not done things the way they expected. But look at the positive side of it. It is more about, they're more detail oriented. So it's very difficult for them to go wrong because they are very, very careful and meticulous, and they're all usually very neat people. So look at in terms of emotional responses, and in terms of how you would channelize the same sort of response more positively, and how what impact it is going to have on you and your team. So watch out your behaviors, how you are behaving, and look out for behaviors from other people to understand. So it's really important to look at your profile, in terms of understanding your profile and looking at other people's profile. So in terms of business, people like to do business with people they like and trust. So when you are working with other people or interacting with other people, or for example with your customers or suppliers, you will have higher chances of success or higher conversion if they like you, if they trust you. And like and trust is easy to build. Once you master this disc, once you understand your disc, once you understand the disc of the person in front of you, you can mirror them, and suddenly you will see that your likability quotient goes up, or people trust you more even without you doing anything or saying anything. It's just if you just change your communication style. So this is really important in terms of business. Also looking at the relationships, when we're looking at relationship, you need to increase the quantity of communication in these times. I've been saying this from the beginning, communication needs to go up, but also think about how can I improve the quality of communication. Quality of communication is about speaking their language, using their words, using their drivers in the conversation. So some of the examples I gave you in the platinum rule. So it is important to understand it's not just about the quantity, it's also about quality of conversation. If you have any questions, please put them in the question answer box, so I can come back to it when we finish. We're just about to finish now. Uh, so how does disc help you in business otherwise? So when we look at business, it improves, hiring and selection. So look at the disc profile. Who would be the right fit for sales role or marketing role? Obviously, high I and high D people. Who would be more suitable for HR role? High S people. Who would be more suitable for example, IT roles and things like high C people? So when you're doing recruitment, think about what is the role, what are the requirements of the role, what is it that you asking them to behave. So for a bookkeeper, a high C will be better than a high I. The chances of them going wrong will be much less compared to a high I. So think about when you're recruiting or when you're selecting people. So when we work with our clients, usually whenever we're recruiting people, we go through disc profile. So we do a disc assessment for every employee that we're looking to hire, because the cost of getting recruitment wrong can be really high, and you can lose easily 5 to 6 months if you get a recruitment wrong. So it's important to do that, when we are recruiting. Increasing sales, like I said, when you're talking to your customers, when you're talking to your prospects, if you can find their disc style, if you can find what their motivators are, if you can find what their fears are, you can overcome them by changing your language a little bit, and that will help you sell more, improve your conversion. You can improve the customer service. If a customer feels that you're listening to them or you understand them, they would obviously have a better perception of your service. Most of the time customer service is not bad because you fail to deliver. Customer service is rated bad because customer feels you don't care enough. It's not about whether you're doing a good job or a bad job. Usually it's about customer feeling you don't care enough. That's what customer service is all about productivity. So when you're looking at your productivity of yourself or your team member, think about what are the drivers. You know, how can I create environment for people to be more productive, more efficient? You know, for example, a high C would rather have a desk somewhere, or a high I would like to sit in between people, because then they are more productive, because when they are with people. But if you lock high I into one room on their own, then obviously they will not be as productive, because they don't get that energy out. So think about who is what in your business and how can you motivate them. You can also think about reducing your employee turnover, because at the end of the day, people will stay in jobs or roles if they enjoy, or if they feel being cared for, if they feel that somebody is listening to them. So understanding or communicating with them in terms of their style would obviously help. You can also customize employee training. So because different disc styles have different learning styles as well. So for example, a high C would like a more detailed instruction manual. High D would like more a bullet point. High I would like to watch a video. You know, high S would like somebody to show them. So it is about understanding how do they learn, and how you can actually make sure your training is more effective. Because if you have just one style of training, you will find it challenging, in terms of imparting the training, or people remembering what they're being trained on. Leadership development. So for example, if you know this and if you can implement it, you can develop leaders under you, and you can also understand what are the different motivators for different styles, because leaders are driven by different motives as well, or different drivers. So what drives any person? So think about that and see, okay, so what is the potential in this person? Would I like to have a high C leader? Would I like to have a high D leader in my business? For which area of the business? So like we've been talking, it's so relevant for motivation and team building, and that's what we've been talking about. So think about how this disc can help you, how the disc will help you get more out of your people, more out of your business, more out of your customers, more out of your suppliers. So about those. Now when we do a disc profile test. So if you are interested in doing a disc profile test, this is the kind of report you get about 40-page report. It's for 49 quid. It basically covers all the things that I've spoken about. Also, it covers about how to understand yourself. How do you understand your profile? And then what is it that you can do to understand other people and adapting to their style? This is really, really important, especially in a sales situation, or anywhere where you're dealing with people. It is really important because it improves, the results. So if you are able to master your disc profile, for example, if you understand what your fears or your needs or your motivators are, and if you can learn about the other people, and if you can adapt, you can see what sort of an impact it will have in your business. So if anybody wants this to be done, or if you need a disc profile report for yourself or for your partner, if nothing else, do it between you and your partner. It'll uncover things which you did not know earlier, or it'll validate some of the things that you thought existed and you were struggling to find, what is the reason behind all of this. So it's important to look at how these disc profiles will help you. If you need any help with this profile, let me know. We can do it for £49. In terms of finishing up, what I would like you to do is write down 3, 4, 5 things what you can change. How you're going to be talking to people differently, what questions you would be asking differently, what sort of motivations you will be using with different people in terms of taking them forward. So based on that, you can actually look at starting to change. Now if I know the group, high C's would be writing right now, high I's would be thinking, high D would have already switched off. So it's about understanding the disc style. So look at this from this perspective. This is the information which may help you in your business, in terms of running your teams, or in terms of managing people better. But let's see any information or any training is good only when you apply it. So make sure you go back and work on it. Okay, I'm ready to take some questions and answers. So question number 1. So is this disc temporary or permanent style? Yeah, okay. So disc is a situational thing. So there is a possibility that one person may be a high D at work and a high S at home. it depends on, who are you with. So sometimes if you have a more dominating partner, you tend to then change your style. So people around you can influence your style, and different situations can actually impact. So there is one is a natural style and another is an adapted style. So natural style and adapted style, if there is a lot of difference between the two styles, then there is a problem. If the natural and adaptive style are close to each other, then it is okay. Otherwise, if there is a lot of difference, then that person has a lot of stress build up. And sometimes you will feel, and I'm sure you must have seen people, when they finish work, they go home, they need about an hour, hour and a half to just recuperate from there. And that is, sometimes there is a problem there, in the sense because they are being something else at work which they are not. And sometimes we behave differently because we think we are expected to behave in a certain way. So if that is happening, it would be causing a lot of stress in your life. So you look at your natural profile and look at your adapted profile, and if there's a lot of gap between the two, then you need to do something about it, because otherwise the stress will burn you out. Okay. Next question is, do Heidi always come across as very dominating? Well, yeah, when Heidis are behaving like Heidis, yes, they do come across a bit dominating, but that doesn't mean they're wanting to dominate. They just want to keep control. And because for them, their validation comes from being in control. They do not want to, let go of control, because they then consider themselves as failure. So it's not about you, it's all about them. So look at it from that perspective. And if you're dealing with a Heidi, it is good to keep it short, it is good to keep it sharp, and it is also important to, give them the bullet points rather than give them a 5-page report. Okay, what is the next question? It is about, what is it that, what signs can you see to identify other styles? Yeah, that's a good one. So for example, things that you could watch. If you're going for a customer meeting, look at their rooms, look at their office, look at their desk. A high D desk will be clean. There will be only few things on the high D's desk. High I's desk will be messy. High C's desk will have lots of stuff, but it will be neatly arranged. High S's desk will have something to do with people. So some report related to people or something about people. So look at that. Look at the pictures. If you have a high I, they will have pictures of friends, family, reunions, team meetings, and things like that. High D's will have pictures of important people with them, right? Because they want to look important. High C's will have maybe not pictures, but maybe some charts or some data or some analysis like that. High S's will have pictures of their loved ones around their desk. So think about, things like this. When you go and meet people, what do you see in their physical environment? So when you see their physical environment, you're able to guess what it is like, in terms of there. Okay, so I'm going to unmute Mike. Mike, are you there? Mike Langen. Maybe not.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. So I'm done here. Thank you, Mike, for organizing this webinar. So Mike is from Hillingdon Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure all of you know him. Mike, would you like to say something?
Yeah, well done again, Andy. This is very useful. Good stuff, really, because I say we need to get this across to people. So I think what you're doing is very good. I just wanted to highlight the website, really, because our website, we've been putting a lot of information on there. And obviously, we've been putting a lot of other things from our members. So if anybody's got anything which is useful from members, and they can get it onto our website, it's sort of help us to get going again. Because obviously, the critical thing is going to be get all the businesses to get going again. Because the shop's opening in 2 weeks' time. And they're obviously going to need a lot of assistance. And one of the messages that we want to send out is it's going to be helpful for people to buy local, to support your local shops and support your local businesses, because they've been through a lot of difficult times, and we need them to recover. So this is a message that's coming out of central London through the chambers that we work with, and it's something we need to do. So keep an eye on our website and see what's going on. But keep up the good work, Andy. And
thanks, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, I know you're doing a lot already for the community. So yeah, it's important for people to visit the website because that's where you're updating all the information, isn't it?
A lot of information coming through from central government, a lot of information coming through about self-employed people. We're trying to make sure that people are, everybody's covered, and we're talking to the government through the London Chambers. So we have the year of government, and we've made quite a few successes, and we're talking to the local council on a regular basis. And we had a long conversation with Heathrow yesterday, because obviously Heathrow's a big employer in the area, and obviously we need to know what's going on. So we've been very active. It's kept us busy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Is there anything else from anybody? Otherwise, we can just wind up. We can wind up 5 minutes early this week, so that's great. Yeah, and if you have any questions, you have my contact details. If you want more information or more help, drop me a line. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Apart from that, have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. And yeah, let's get back to the normalcy as soon as we can. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Andy. All the best. Yep.
Thanks.